At the time we're recording this episode, the crypto bubble and the stock market bubble, what some are referring to as the mother of all bubbles, is back. And you're listening to the Investing Mastermind podcast. I'm Michelle Markey.
And I'm Signe Lundholt.
And having what we think are asset bubbles back in the picture raises a lot of questions and makes one have to think about what we're going to do in 2025 and kind of ask ourselves, how patient can we be with what seems to be a familiar story? Because it's not like we haven't had bubbles in the past, but it kind of feels like we're having bubbles way more frequently in assets. And I'll cite some interesting things I've read lately from what people have observed. And what have you observed, Sina, about what's going on in the markets?
After the US presidential election, it seems that everybody is jumping into crypto these days. I hear a lot about it. It's always when your parents or in-laws start talking about crypto, you always know, uh-oh, something is up. And yeah, that's what I hear again. And of course, it's because Donald Trump has alluded to the fact that they're going to start looking into crypto. And who knows what is going to happen? Is it something he really means? Is it just something that he is talking about right now before he becomes president? We don't know what exactly it entails. So, yeah, I'm just following along, not doing anything. I'm not jumping on that bandwagon, but it's always interesting to follow.
Yeah, and like you said, things like Bitcoin and crypto have been on a nonstop rise up since the election in November, and they've gone back down a little bit from, I think Bitcoin reached an all-time high of $106,000, and it's gone down to, at the time we're recording this, maybe 94K. But we've noticed that a lot of people are observing all kinds of things about what this market is doing, like how apparently there were 13 million new meme coins minted this year. And that's just for the year of 2024 of what I'm talking about. And in Forbes, they wrote that there were animal spirits in the land of meme coins, and that it makes the bullish optimism of other strategists like who think that the S&P 500 will go up between 11 to 20% look tame in comparison. And the Forbes article title is Inside the Wild Money Machine Fueling Crypto's Stupidest Bubble. So it's pretty incredible how these popular journals like Forbes or Financial Times have certain observations of what the market seem to be doing right now.
That that's funny. Animal spirit. It's not funny because, when you sit on the sidelines and actually observe what is going on, it's not that funny. I do want to actually, I just said I'm not jumping on that bandwagon, but I want to also just say that I do own crypto. So, and before I knew how to intelligently invest and how to invest in good quality, I did buy crypto. It's many years ago now, so I do still hold some of that crypto. It's very expensive tax-wise to actually sell, so that's a good thing. I'm just hanging on to it, but I'm not buying new things. And I think what we're seeing is super concerning. I feel like we've been there before just recently, actually, right around the pandemic, right? Where there was influencers doing the crypto and all the
Yeah, like the ape,
NFTs, I believe.
yeah, the NFTs and the
Yeah.
like the ape coins and the children who made many pictures of whale multicolored images that were selling for a lot as tokens. Like all, it's almost like NFT is back, but like just in a different form. Like they just, I mean, maybe it never left. It was dormant for a little bit and then it's probably back in full swing now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it feels now. There's coins everywhere. And so what I've been observing is also that there are these, it's called rug pulls happening where it is young influencers. Sometimes I feel it's even children. I could be wrong. They look like children. Now, I don't know how old they are, but they are very, very young. And what happens is that they will launch this crypto. So they are these young gamers, influencers, which have a large following of also very young adults. and they launch a crypto token, like a coin, some sort of a crypto coin, and then they have these live calls, these huge live calls where all their community members are following along, and then they sell these crypto coins and get all hyped up, buy, buy, buy. And then what happens is they then pull out of that coin. So the influencer themselves will sell their share of that particular crypto coin and exit altogether. And that leaves the community left with those coins that then potentially is, yeah, it's worth nothing to begin with, but now it's really worth nothing because all of a sudden the influencer is not even sort of part of that universe anymore. And there's been some different scandals where these young adults have also gotten where it became nothing shortly after. There's actually also been examples of where the community actually were able to even raise the price further and give a sort of a big finger, middle finger to that influencer so that the cryptocurrency actually rose even further up so that the community was actually able to earn some money on it. But the thing is, once you pull out of those crypto coins, they could go to zero because they don't contain any value. And that's the problem about crypto, that it only will rely on other people buying into the thing in order for it to actually increase.
And
There's a lot of unhealthy things going on. I can't even tell you guys how much I experience of people that are getting scammed these days with all these different programs and things happening within this space. So it's sad, it's concerning. Now we're laughing a little bit about it, but it is concerning. Yeah.
yeah, and what you described, Sina, is called the greater fool theory, where you're possibly putting your money into something and hoping another fool pays more money for it than you did. Like, I remember as a kid, I was into collecting Pokemon cards, and the only reason that maybe a first edition Charizard card had value is because someone else was maybe willing to pay more for it than my dad did, let's say. And if someone else paid more, you made a little bit of money on your special card. And in a way, that's kind of like what we see happening today in some of these digital numbers that I like to think of it as. It's just people will see an image or a particular coin like Pepe le Frog, and it's attributed some numeric value. And maybe because it's based on the number of people owning the coin and the number of people trading in it, it has some volume of trades and activity. Maybe that leads people to believe that these things have value. And maybe it does. Maybe there are some crypto projects that actually could have value. Like one of my friends is really enthusiastic about Ethereum and a few other projects that he believes are more legitimate. But there are many others that lack any sort of purpose. And while they currently may have market values that exceed those of actual companies, there are some companies that are doing real things, providing real services and goods, and somehow their value is below some of these meme coins like Pepe Le Frog. And to some of us, that might seem bonkers. Like, why would anyone put money in, like, some, in my mind, kind of pretend digital money? Like, it's just a numbers game, it's gambling on the internet. And yet, people are somehow inflating the supposed paper values of these cryptos. And I think some people don't know what they're getting into. And that's exactly where someone could turn into a fool. And like Sina, you were quoting your husband who cited a proverb that I think would be fitting in this case.
Yeah, yeah, he's going to be so happy because when we were discussing it, Michelle was like, was it Charlie Munger that said this?" And then as I thought about it, it was like, "Oh no, it's my husband." But he's going to be really happy that I thought it was Charlie Munger when he hears about this. But so the saying is that a fool and his money is easily parted. And that's something sometimes we talk about also because there's something going on in this world. And Michelle, we were also talking about it before the call here because so the two of us, we don't engage in activity like this, but I have friends and also know of these things going on where it's like huge live streams where people shop live online and buy the most ridiculous things because they get all hyped up. It's like TV shop back in the day where, oh, buy this set of knives, and if you buy it now, then you get an additional blah blah blah. But because it's happening online and you can see all these other people getting into it and actually buying, then oh, I want it too. And then some of them sell sand in Sahara, right? So they can sell ice in Greenland and things like that because they're a magnificent salespeople. But then I don't get what is going on, but it's sort of the same thing I see in some of these crypto communities where they launch a new coin, they get the community all hyped up, and then, yeah, there's so much scam going on and different types of scams. Like there's rug pulls, and we also talked about some of the other types of scams that's actually happening these days.
Yeah, and some of those, I mean, related to rug pull, according to a Coinbase article, there could be several kinds of rug pulls that we might not think of traditionally as that. Like the a famous one is called pump and dump, and the pump and dump is often what it sounds like fraudsters will inflate the price of a token or asset through coordinated buying, and then they will sell their holdings at the peak, and then that crashes the value. So that's a pretty common, that's happened for many years with all kinds of assets. That is a pretty typical scheme that people will see. And then there could be fake projects where you might think it's a legitimate crypto project, and then people will start to participate, and then somebody will disappear with all the assets, and then it leaves people with worthless tokens. And there's something called the team exit, where the project's team members suddenly disappear and it leaves the participants with no support and a collapsing token. And then something also called a liquidity pull, where bad actors are removing what's called liquidity, which is kind of having enough cash flow to use, like having enough kind of money moving around. And that means when they're removing liquidity from a token pool, it makes the token's value plummet due to a lack of sellers and buyers. So these are all possible forms of rug pulls. And this is a public service announcement, because when Sienna was telling me about these influencers doing these rug pulls, I felt like this is something people need to know about, so that with more awareness, people, instead of getting brainwashed by watching these live streams and thinking you're buying something that could have value, there are many things that don't have value. And these scams are tales as old as time. We're just experiencing them in a more digital way. Like in years before, somebody could convince you to buy a pet rock. And if you were convinced to buy a pet rock, you could have spent a lot of money in that craze to buy pet rocks or tulips, like tulip bulbs. Like these were all manias in the past that somehow somebody, like you said, Sina, was an exceptional salesperson, and they could convince somebody to part with their money. And we need people to be aware that these are not real investments. I don't think. I think most things out there, if you haven't studied it in close detail and you don't know what they're doing and you don't trust the people doing it, it's a really difficult situation. And it's already hard enough trying to invest in companies where we believe in the management, that you can trust them and you think that they will do a good job, and that you think a company will produce earnings and cash flow in the future, and that it will still be a going concern. That's already hard enough. And then you see people dumping their money in fake coins. And I mean, it's just breathtaking. It makes doing legitimate investing like a walk in the park compared to just gambling with Pepe Le Frog. Like, I just don't know how people think that you can just put your money into something and you see a digital number go up on your screen. And that's not normal. It's not normal to just automatically, whenever you put your money into something, it just goes up in value and you somehow make money. Life is not that easy. And if you think it's that easy and you're gambling and making tons of money, then maybe good for you, but I would quit while you're ahead of like before you lose it all and lose your shirt, I think it would be better to get out while there's still time before the bubble bursts.
Yeah, 100%. But also because we're talking about, for example, tulips that you mentioned earlier, which you were referring to the tulip mania back in the, what's it, 1800s
Or
or
maybe
so.
1500s.
Yeah, like back in the day. And at least you had a flower bulb at that time. With crypto, you have dust. You have nothing. There's no value, no nothing. You hold absolutely nothing. And so if you're in a situation where, yeah, what I see now is also a lot of talk about Ethereum and how, people should invest in these companies that are using Ethereum, but where it's still kind of to the extent where it's gambling. So some things that you should definitely do is, first of all, the trading platform that you're using for your crypto buying or whatever asset you're buying, make sure that it is regulated by the financial authorities in, for example, United States or in a Western world. Like, I'm not talking about Dubai or any random place in the world. It could be UK, it could be US, any sort of Western world country. Make sure that the trading platform, first of all, is regulated by financial authorities. So that's the first thing you can do. Next up, if you want to buy into any kind of crypto coins or anything like that, make sure to do some research. It is incredibly difficult because there are a lot of schemes going on out there, and some of them are very, very good, and they set up all sorts of props in order for you to actually believe that there is an actual thing happening right now. So it's going to be very, very difficult to research. Like, I've heard stories about people that actually did some due diligence and call up different kinds of entities and things like that. And it turned out, nope, it was still just like a movie. You see a movie scene back in the day, they would make these props. And it didn't look like you were in New York City or something like that, but in reality, it was just a facade. And, there's so much of that going on out there. So I would say use one of the regulated markets. Again, stocks, do your due diligence. I know it does actually require some work, but it'll also pay off. And there's so many things happening right now. I talk to so many people that ends up in these scams that use unregulated platforms or unregulated asset classes and things like that. And yeah, there's a whole lot of that stuff going on out there. And I can imagine a place like Coinbase, for example, it must be so difficult for them also with all these cryptocurrencies that are potentially launching, and actually to do their due diligence in order to help their users out and not buying something that's a big old scam. So, yeah.
I think we're coming up on the end of this episode. And one thing I want to leave folks with is, if we can believe in the wisdom of the best investor of all time, Warren Buffett, at an annual Berkshire Hathaway meeting, he said that he wouldn't buy all the Bitcoin in the world for $25 because what would he do with it? So I want to leave that as food for thought for folks, because if even the best investor in the world would not touch the stuff with a 10-foot pole, because he wouldn't do anything with it. He would have it. It would sit in his digital money bank account, and then what? And then you just look at it and see, oh, there's a number there. Okay. Like, you can't do anything with it. It doesn't produce crops like farmland does. It doesn't produce shelter like a roof over someone's head, like an apartment building does. It doesn't produce goods and services like real companies provide to us every day that we rely on to live our lives. So I want to put that in stark comparison to what a lot of it is monopoly money on the internet. And Monopoly is fun. I enjoyed playing the game growing up. I like the game of Monopoly. But when it comes to your real money and trading that for fake money, I think people need to be really careful, like you said, Sina. So that's great advice. And yeah, good luck out there and watch out for the bubble.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. That was excellent. We will be back in 2 weeks. So see you on Tuesday in 2 weeks.
Till next time.
If you enjoyed the show and found the content informational, we would be super grateful if you would leave us a review and follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you automatically get new episodes in your feed. We publish a new show every Tuesday.
The contents of the Investing Mastermind podcast are for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. None of this is investing advice, and if you need help in your personal situation, please consult with a professional.